To go live. So I think we're live. Hello everybody. I'm just going to check it on my phone before I introduce my lovely friend here. I never totally trust technology. So if you guys are watching this live, if you could just put it in the comments, that would be, just tell us hello, where you're listening from. Oh yes, we're live. I can see us. I can see us.
So you're looking at your Facebook page, Veronica?
I'm looking at the Facebook group. Oh, I can see Tamara is there. Okay, great. Yes, we are live. Hello, and we have people watching. So a few people will join us as we go along. So welcome, everybody. And I would like to introduce my friend, the very lovely Sherry Gaba. Did I say that? I said that wrong, don't I?
Yeah, it's okay. It's Gaba, but hey, people have said worse. Gabba is a big one. I guess it's some cartoon or something.
Oh yeah. If you listen to my podcast, you know I have a history of messing up people's names. It's like I think it's a dyslexic
thing. It's your signature dish.
Yeah. Like I will mangle your name in some way, shape, or form. Hi Tamara. We had oh God, I'm not even going to say her name, but we had Eric Clapton's wife on our podcast, and I could not say her first name. Every time I said it a different way.
Oh, that's funny. Now, can I see the people on my?
I don't know. You have to go onto the Soberful Facebook, and then you can see it.
I am on it, but
yay!
Is it Sobriety and Love? I don't see us. Oh, there we are. Oh.
Yeah.
Wow, this is so cool. Cool.
So Sherry's all the way in Southern California, and I'm in New York. Hi, Bev. Hi, Fiona. Good to see you guys. Yeah, say hello in the comments if you're watching. We're going to be talking about love addiction. Before we do, what I want to do is just have Sherry introduce herself and sort of tell us your thing and what you do, because Sherry has tons of experience in this whole area. So go ahead.
Thank you. So I was kind of the go-to person for addiction. I was on Celebrity Rehab with the addictionologist, Dr. Drew Pinsky, and that was the number one VH1, it was the number one cable show on VH1. And then I sort of became the person that talked to people. I would be on CNN, and I would talk about Amy Winehouse, all these tragic deaths, Philip Seymour Hoffman. I talked about Amy Winehouse. Who else? God forbid, passed away during that time. Whitney Houston. I mean, there were just all these tragic deaths. And at that time, on the news, they really did talk a lot about these things. And it really, I think, made a big difference to understand addiction and the tragedies involved with addiction. Now, of course, it's all politics on CNN. But that's what it was. That was then, and this is now. I was married to an alcoholic. So I'm very passionate about the subject. I take it very seriously. In fact, last night I had a couple, and they just don't want to look at the alcoholic piece. I actually sent them to you, Veronica, because for me to do couples therapy where there's a lot of denial around it and they're not ready to get sober, there's no point in helping them with communication issues when they're blacking out and having fights because they're drinking heavily. So I take it really seriously, and I want to support them in every which way I can. But what I noticed was my disease is just as fatal as alcoholism, and it's called love addiction and codependency. And so the addict alcoholic is obsessed with the drink. I'm obsessed with you. I'm going to do anything to get you sober. I'm going to obsess over it. I'm going to enable you. I'm going to think about you 24/7. I'm going to put you in every rehab, and I'm going to lose myself in the process. I'm going to become an empty shell of a person, which is pretty much what happened to me. And I didn't just become that with that relationship. I'd always been a love addict. I was born a love addict.
How is someone born a love addict?
Well, I've shared this story many times, and I always like to share it because I know there's one person in your audience today, Veronica, that's going to be able to relate. I was premature. I was in an incubator for 2.5 months. No bonding, no nurturing, no touch. None of that attachment stuff that that actually we're going to talk about. I didn't receive any of it, and so there I was, this little 3-pound baby for 2.5 months, being fed through my feet, no bottle, no sucking response. I was always searching for the proverbial breast or the proverbial person outside of me to comfort me, to love me.
Yeah, because babies need attachment.
Well, we know that now. We even know with preemie babies, they do all this extra stuff. they come to your home, they show you what to do, how to give them, even more attention and love because they have special needs. So I didn't get any of that. I might as well have been one of those orphanage babies that didn't get touched. And so I had a lot of temper tantrums. I was just so lost. And so I always felt different. With addiction, we always talk about that emptiness. I always had that emptiness. And the only thing that filled it up was having a relationship. And so, like my book that's coming out, Love Smack, I talk about the multiple relationships, multiple marriages. And, why I'm so passionate about this subject as well as alcoholism is that it can change the whole trajectory of your life if you don't deal with these abandonment issues, if we don't deal with these attachment issues. We're just going to settle, and we don't have to settle. And so also, the other reason I'm talking about it is I'm older than you, Veronica, and I want people to know no matter what age you are, it is never too late to find your authentic self and to be able to be a whole person without having to fill it up with drugs, alcohol, or a person.
Yeah, and you've been such a great example of that. So I also was a love addict. I had no idea that I was, but I very much believed from very young that from a teenage girl, the whole thing about romance, that love and the right man would save me. So when we talk about drugs of choice, it's like, what were your favorite things to use to numb? Alcohol was definitely mine, but so was men and really unhealthy toxic relationships. I mean, I use this term a lot with my clients. I accepted scraps from the table. Like, it never occurred to me that I had to like the guy. My self-esteem was so low. I was so blown away that someone would like me and want to be with me. I had relationships with people I wasn't attracted to. I didn't like that much because I just didn't want to be alone. And it's that neediness, right? So right. I had this. So along with my drinking, and they both fueled each other. It's funny, when I got married and my husband, we were talking about past relationships and stuff like that, because he's a little older than me and divorced at the time. And I'm like, the relationships I had when I was drinking, like, it's not that they don't count, but they weren't based on anything that was real. Like, it was so caught up with my drinking. They just, I drank so I could meet someone, and I love that expression that, like, I didn't have relationships, I took hostages. And it was like, I'll do whatever I can so you don't leave me and so I'm not alone. I nearly got married to someone I didn't love because of that. And I was slaving under the belief that getting married and the right relationship would be everything and I would be saved. And it would all be okay. And every time a relationship failed, I always thought it was because I wasn't good enough, I wasn't thin enough, I wasn't pretty enough, I just wasn't enough. But if I just try harder, maybe the next time, maybe the next one. I was always looking for the one. And
our culture sort of supports that. Even in movies today, they support that you are nothing unless you have someone. I think our parents probably pressure us even today in 2020. I think we're still pressured. Like, I remember if I wasn't with somebody, it was all about, well, what are you doing? Are you out there dating? How are you trying to meet people? It was just always this push to complete me, and so that was my go-to. I was going to find somebody no matter what, and I was going to. And I love what you said about, do they like me? Well, I always say now to my clients, do you like them? Like, you're worried about them calling you. Do you really want them to call you? It's so funny because it's a continuum. It can start out, I have men that actually are on dating apps. They're married, they're on Facebook, and they just want that hit. So they'll contact a woman just to see if they'll contact them back, And then it goes all the way, of course, to sex addiction. But what it is, it's needing that hit. It's needing that attention. It's needing... It's really fascinating because really they won't even have an affair. It's not even about the sex. And I call that love addiction because they want that hit. Yes. And I love what you were saying about the romance addiction, because my addiction and how it all started was my parents were pretty volatile. They were loving parents, but they fought a lot, and they fought a lot about money, and there was a lot of chaos. And so I would escape. And how would I escape? I would escape in fantasies, like romance stories. And then when I discovered soap operas, I'm like, oh my God. And so I would be in these stories, and then it just continued throughout my life. So every time I met a guy, it was a whole story, like, oh, where are we going to get married? It's going to be at the beach, and it's going to be this, and it's going to be that. And it just took on a life of its own rather than the actual person. It was like I was more excited about the wedding than I was the marriage.
Yeah, I see that a lot. I see that a lot, where it's all about we project this romantic fantasy of how things are going to be, and then we're crushed with disappointment when this human being that we've projected this fantasy on doesn't live up to these expectations that we've actually probably not even told them about. It's really interesting as a mother of two sons how much I observe in the girls' behavior of a similar age, and my kids are like 9 and 5, of already little girls are very much conditioned to believe that having a boyfriend and being a girlfriend is something that they want to achieve, like it's a goal. Because my eldest son is like, that kind of scares him. He really doesn't like, he has friends who are girls, but if someone starts saying, oh, is that your girlfriend, he really doesn't like it. It scares him. There's nothing in boys' play.
He's already a love avoidant.
well there's nothing in their play that that it's giving them the same story. So girls, we're all conditioned that we should aspire to be someone's partner, and that is like the ultimate achievement. There's no equivalent in little boys. There's nothing in his play, in his books, in his imagination that is about that. So we are conditioned.
Girls are like, they have little dolls, and they're brushing their hair, and they're changing their little diapers, and they're preparing them to be little mommies, and little mommies usually have husbands, and that's exactly right. It's all part of that culture, and it's still going on.
Yes. So I was very conditioned to believe that. Then what happened is I got sober, and I thought just for the fact of being sober, that would be better. Like, I just thought, now I'm sober, that can't possibly be the same. So my first sober relationship, it was exactly the same pattern when I was drinking. And I had this pattern of creating abandonment. I would meet someone. So this was my pattern. I would meet a guy. He would be blown away by me, think I was amazing and attractive. And I had like all of this incredible attention. Like, I was just like, oh, wow. And then, and we would have this intense relationship, and I would think, that's it, we're going to get married, that's it, here's the one, that's it, it's going to be amazing. And then between the 8 and 12 week mark, he would begin to back away. I would always attract a love avoidant. And I could, like, it would be such a tiny, I could feel it. The moment it happened, I could feel it. And I knew it was happening, and this fear would well up inside of me, and I would just be frantic to stop it. And the more I was frantic to stop that, the more that they would back, and then I would end up alone, feeling abandoned. And that happened in sobriety, and it almost destroyed me, because I thought in sobriety it was going to be different.
Yeah, you're talking about the love avoidant, love addiction relationship.
Yes.
You also could be talking about narcissists. You could be talking about narcissistic abuse, because they often and I know it's an overused word, but it's a really important thing to understand. And not everybody has to be a full-blown narcissist to have narcissistic traits. As you know, we're both therapists. And so often they'll come in and they'll just like hoover over you, and they'll be love bombing you, and they tell you how wonderful you are, how beautiful you are. They're like predators. They know exactly what you want to hear, and then you get sucked in, and then they have you, and then they discard you, like you said, a couple of months later. So the whole thing for them is the conquest. You know, it's I want to know that I'm lovable, not even lovable. I just want to know that I can conquer you. And for the woman, it's, I want to be needed. Oh, he needs me. He wants me. He wants to be with me. Oh my God, you know.
Yeah, yeah. And that happening in my sobriety turned out to be a gift, because it was so painful without the anesthetic. Like, I didn't want to drink, but I actually did feel suicidal, because it's exactly what we're talking about. That pain was original pain. It wasn't the pain of the guy that I'd known for 10 weeks. It just went straight back to the childhood stuff that I'd never resolved, never dealt with. This is all subconscious programming. We all are programmed from childhood, you know, just what Sherry was talking, from a tiny baby. We were creating meaning and beliefs about ourselves and we carry them forward into our adult worlds and very much in our relationships. So I was recreating the abandonment from my childhood, not just my father leaving, but the emotional abandonment of my mother, and I didn't know how to stop it. And I did and it really scared me because I was not only sober, I was already training to be a therapist. So I had the education, like I knew what was happening, and I still couldn't stop it. And I thought to myself, like I was maybe 30 at this point, I think I'm going to have to be like celibate and alone for the rest of my life because I don't want to drink. I want to be sober, but I cannot go through this level of pain. I cannot go through this level of pain because it's original pain, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking about my ex-husband as you talk. And again, this could be women or men, but he couldn't even be intimate without alcohol. There just was no ability to be intimate. And the only way he could really, he lived in his old story of when he was young and he was going to the clubs and it was all about picking up women and being drunk and cocaine. And then when he just was stuck there. And I'm sure many of the people that are listening right now are sort of stuck there. Maybe they're stuck in their college days when they drank and picked up guys or hooked up or whatever. We kind of get stuck in that old place. And so now sober, we have to welcome up a new type of intimacy, a sober intimacy. What does that look like? It doesn't have to look like what it was. It can look like something brand new, something healthier, something more intimate, but you don't know that if you've never been sober and been in a relationship. You just don't even know that it can be that great.
Yeah. And I just want to also add that we are using terms he or she, he and she, but love addiction, it's across all relationships. So this pattern is in same-sex relationships too. It's not just a male-female dynamic. Whatever the gender of our romantic partner, we will still activate the original wounds from our childhood, and they will. This is the big thing I want people to understand today, is we all have childhood wounds. A lot of us have abandonment wounds or trauma or all kinds of things, and those are all in our subconscious programming, so we don't know they're there. And they always manifest themselves in our romantic entanglements and relationships, right? And until we're able to change them.
And, we use these words, love addiction, love avoidant, narcissistic abuse. We talk codependency, but really at the end of the day, it's an intimacy issue. It's an inability to connect. It's an inability to connect to another person because you did not most likely get it early on in life. Like for me, it was the early bonding. You could be somebody that was like you came from a father that abandoned you. You could come from a family where your parents were addicts and alcoholics, so they were unavailable emotionally or physically. You could have been neglected. There could have been, God forbid, sexual abuse, physical abuse. There's all kinds of things that happen that program us to have these avoidant issues, that have these intimacy issues, because we were invisible. How can we really be intimate when we were invisible and nobody connected to us? How are we going to know to connect with you? So it's so sorry, my dogs are barking in the background.
That's okay.
It's okay, we're live. They agree with me. It's just an intimacy issue, and that's really what it comes down to. It's an inability to connect, and just like we often hear, in recovery circles, the opposite of addiction is connection. And so, what we want to learn how to do is connect in healthier ways.
Yeah, and there's the relationship with love addiction and substance addiction. Is the pain of that is so intense that our brains are looking for some way to numb, to change the feelings. I remember one time I was in college and I got dumped by the guy at around the 12-week mark, and it was on a phone call, and I knew it was going to happen. And I put the phone down and I just went, right, I have to go and get 2 bottles of wine. Like, I have to go. And it was like a winter day in England, and it was horrible. And I was like, and it was like a 20-minute walk to the liquor store. But that was it. To be okay, I have to have wine right now to be okay.
It's excruciating. It really is. And it's excruciating. Let's say you have intimacy issues yourself. And I'm going back to my ex-husband, but again, it could be an ex-wife, it could be a woman, it could be a male. He felt so bad that he couldn't be intimate with me, sort of that love avoidant, sex avoidant, sexual anorexia, and I'm really saying it all right now, live. But he felt so bad, that would make him drink. Like, I can't be intimate with the person I love. Like, what's wrong with me? And that would make him drink because it was so painful. So I take this super seriously, and I think they are so intertwined. And that's why we're here talking about sobriety and love addiction, because they really are very much connected to one another.
Yeah, I just want to say quickly, Bernadette, I see your little message, and I'm just sending you some love this morning because it looks like you need some love today. So yeah, then I got really desperate. Oh, Sherry, you have to turn that off because it's echoey.
I got to get off here. Wait
get it off the phone. Yeah, because it's too.
Let me just turn it off. Let me just turn it off because I don't know how to turn it. Anyway, sorry guys.
Sorry. So when when that happened to me in sobriety, I got the gift of desperation, and I didn't want to drink. I didn't want to kill myself. So I was only left with one other option, and that was to try and figure this stuff out and change it. And that's what I began to do. And it was by doing, so I used to think the answers were always on the outside. I used to think it was a drink was the answer, being 10 pounds thinner was the answer, meeting Mr. Right was the answer. I used to think things on the outside would fix me on the inside. And what I learned was that if I fixed me on the inside, then everything changed on the outside. So that's when I started to begin doing this deeper work that then enabled me to be a person who could have a healthy, functioning relationship. And part of that was after I did this work is like, I remember I got into a relationship and there was lots of attraction there, but after a while I realized that this wasn't the person for me, and I was able to healthily exit a relationship because before I would sabotage things. Like I would make them leave me if I was in a relationship with someone I didn't like, or so I couldn't behave like an adult. So I was able to be in relationships and leave them when I recognized that this wasn't the right person for me and I wasn't the right person for them. I mean, that's part of the journey too, right?
Right. Well, if you know yourself, you know what you want. I mean, if you don't know who you are, how are you going to pick someone that's right for you? So once you know who you are and then you see, okay, this is my line in the sand. I don't want somebody that doesn't have a job, or I don't want somebody that has an anger issue, or I want to be someone who's kind and loving and sweet, and I don't want to be with someone who I don't know, all the things that we put on our list. But if you know who you are and you have that list and you're really clear about that, you can be very discerning. I mean, I was in a recent relationship. It went really well for a year and a half, and then it started to go south. I saw some anger issues, and I'm like, no, because I know myself, and I know that I don't want to be with someone who has these issues. Now, someone might say, well, why not try to work them out? Sure, I guess it depends on the situation. If you've been married many years and you have children, and all of a sudden this anger creeps in, maybe you do want to work it out. In my situation, there was nothing like that. It was just, I'm seeing a side of you that I just don't want in my life. I want peace and serenity, and I'm not getting that here. And you're right. The detachment is so much easier because you're not afraid to be alone. You're not afraid to let go. Like when I was young, the end of a relationship was like you said, sheer terror. Oh my God, I'm going to be by myself. I'm going to be abandoned. I was already looking for the next, hostage before I could let go of this one. Or I'd hold on to this one because I just was in such, complete fear. So it's so wonderful when you can finally be in a whole place and you don't need someone to make you whole, to make you happy. You can do it you can do it on your own. And there's so many, it's freedom. It really is freedom when you get to that point in your life.
Yeah, it really is. Oh my gosh.
And I have my dogs. So, my dogs they're the best.
And it's not just your romantic relationships. It's how you show up in friendships and all. I mean, I would just dump my friends the minute I met a guy. But it's about like how we, maintaining our friendships and all of that kind of stuff. We're really talking about attachment and connection. And the reason I wanted to talk about this today is, I would say in nearly all of my client work, I would see this again and again. This just the desperation, the fear, the being with someone, staying in a toxic relationship because you're scared of being on your own. that when I met my husband on our first date, he said to me, can you name 5 relationships of people that you envy? As in 5 relationships that of people you know that you think, yeah, that's what I want. You know what's really interesting, Sherry? I could name you 30 couples of people I know like that. But people who have a relationship that I would want, between us, we can only get 5. Because so many people are in relationships because of fear, not love. Fear of being left, fear of being alone, fear that this is it, their last chance, you know, it's either this or they'll be alone for the rest of their lives. And that it was such an interesting question, and I saw it all the time, that so many people settle for dysfunctional relationships because they don't have the skills to be able to change them and attract what they want in their lives.
They don't feel they're worthy. They don't have the confidence. They don't have the security within themselves. And then we have another layer today with the pandemic. I think I'm seeing a lot of people staying in unhealthy relationships. I'm seeing both. I'm seeing a lot of people staying in unhealthy relationships out of fear of being out there in this pandemic world. But then I'm also seeing people really eager to find someone and find a healthy relationship because they realize what really matters. You know, our whole world is sort of out of control politically and the pandemic and everything else, and it's like, wow, I just want to find someone that is, you know, it's a safe place, it's a sacred place. So I'm kind of seeing both sides right now. People willing to, you know, go. I have this one client I'm working with. You know, she was really love avoidant, but then she finally started to trust and she started to get to know somebody through FaceTime, this dating process now because of the pandemic. And then they kind of got together. Unfortunately, he became the love avoidant, unfortunately. But the good news is she opened her heart. She was sort of a love avoidant, and she just said, okay, I'm going to trust this process. She opened up her heart. Now, of course, there were some red flags. Now she's learned, okay, I'm really happy that I opened up my heart, and I have to be more honest with myself when I do see red flags, because he was showing red flags. Like, he didn't want to call it a relationship. He didn't want the title boyfriend, girlfriend. And in her mind, as we look back, we talked about it, that's a little bit of a red flag, because that means there's something going on there. So, but the good news is that she opened up her heart. She trusted again, you know, and she didn't put out that energy of negativity, or that nobody's going to want me, and I'm never going to meet anybody, and I'm going to be alone forever, and all my friends have someone, and I don't have someone. Because let me tell you, the law of attraction works. What you put out there, you create. And so once you start believing in these new belief systems, and you get rid of all these negative belief systems, you start to allow real love to show up in your life.
Yeah, and someone said about red flags. Absolutely. That was a big thing in my it's being able to recognize red flags a lot earlier and exit the relationship. Because I used to just do this. I would see them and be like, yeah, not paying attention to those, because I'm projecting onto you what I want you to be. So I'm going to ignore all the signs that actually show you're not the person I think you are. You're not the person I want, because I just want things the way I want them to be, because then I will feel okay and everything will be wonderful and happy and I'll be safe.
You fall in love with an illusion of who you want to be rather than who you are. And then you spend the rest of your time trying to change and fix and control them. Yeah. You know, I mean, I married someone that was an alcoholic. Okay, I didn't know much about alcoholism at the time. Of course, I learned more as time went on. And then I learned you really need to have a recovery of some sort, whatever that might be. He had no recovery. But I was going to accept unacceptable behavior anyway. I was going to watch this person, you know, eventually relapse, because there was no way for him to live a sober life without a network, without a program, without people in his life to lift him up, champion him, be accountable. And so today, you know, I see that. I see that I accepted unacceptable behavior. I had a boundary. You need to have recovery, and yet I crossed over the boundary because I didn't want to lose him.
Yeah. So before we end, Sherry and I have a program that's starting next week. It's an 8-module program over 9 weeks. And it's called Sobriety and Love. And it's for people who are on the sober journey, who are beginning to recognize that they also have a lot of relationship, love addiction issues. What we're going to teach over the 9 weeks is all of the stuff that we know from our clinical training, but also the stuff that we've done personally that we did that began this work for us. So we went from people who were really at the mercy of this addiction to being able to be in recovery from it and be able to love ourselves and be able to have healthy attachments and relationships. I'm really excited about this program because I see so many people really struggle with this in sobriety, and they're still of the belief that if they just find the right person, then it will all be okay. I'm just telling you now, it's not the right person. You have to become the person. You have to become the person, and then you will attract somebody who will find that attractive. So if you are in that place and you are really struggling with this, if you've been down that black hole where you've just felt despair and that feeling of abandonment and things can't change, I want to suggest that this is the program for you. Sherry and I both have, I have almost 20 years experience. Sherry has probably more than that, right?
Well, I went back to school later in life, so I would say I graduated in '99. So
yeah, so
21 years.
Yeah. So we have almost 2 decades of experience of our own recovery and of working and doing this. Helping people make these changes. So the link is in the comments if you want to sign up, and we have a little bonus. This is a time-sensitive bonus. So if you are one of the first 4 people to sign up today, you will qualify for a 30-minute coaching session with either Sherry or I. So if you are ready to join and you want to get one-on-one time with either me or Sherry, if you're one of the next 4 people to sign up, we will give you that bonus. So go to the link, sign up there, and we'll be able to see who were the first 4 people, and then we'll get you your bonus. If you have any questions, you can reach out to us. We're going to be live tomorrow on Sherry's Instagram account. What's your Instagram, Sherry?
It's Codependency Curious.
Codependency Curious is your Instagram. So check us out there tomorrow. What time are we doing that?
I think it's 10, but...
well, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m.
Is that Pacific?
Right? Yeah, I think that's right. Okay. So catch us then.
We're getting our times a little bit funky.
Yeah. East Coast, West Coast. We're still getting used to that. Yeah. Thanks so much for watching. Sign up. Hope you're one of the 4 because we'd love to chat, and we will see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.